Okay, so I'm just going to perform task 16, which is a direct smear from a fecal sample. So I have my supplies right here on the counter, so I'm just going to lower the camera a little bit just so you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so as far as my supplies, I have some saline drawn up in the syringe that I already drew up. I have my fecal sample, which is labeled with today's date, the species, and the patient's name. I have a microscope slide. I have a wooden applicator tip to help mix everything together. And then I have a cover slip right in here that I'll place on afterwards. And then I also have a piece of paper right here, one of our CPR sheets, just to make sure that my smear is going to be thin enough, because you want to still be able to have your smear, but have it thin enough that you can see some writing underneath. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is just take the needle off of my syringe and throw that into the sharps. And then I'm just going to place 1 drop of saline onto my slide. I generally go towards the middle. That's 1 drop. Okay. And then next I'm just going to undo the lid and just take out a small amount of my fecal sample with my wooden applicator tip. And I'm just going to mix it in with the saline that I already put onto the slide. And you just need a very small amount since it's going to be on this slide. So maybe a little bit more than that. Okay, so I just have, tiny amount. Okay. I'm just going to put that onto my saline slide. And then I'm just going to take the very end of my wooden applicator, and I'm just going to mix it pretty thoroughly. You want to mix it thoroughly, this way you can get rid of any of the big chunks of your fecal sample. Still mixing. One more little chunk that's putting up a little bit of fight. Alright, so I feel that I've mixed my fecal sample and the saline pretty well. It's looking pretty thin. You know, by mixing it, you're trying to make a homogeneous emulsion, excuse me. So I believe that that is thin enough, so I'm just going to take this and throw it in the garbage because I don't need it anymore. Just going to put the lid back on my fecal sample. And I'm just going to put the slide over onto this piece of paper, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so that you can see. That you can still see right through, and you can still read, you know, what's saying underneath. It says lactate, and it says ISTAT, and a fast exam. So it's thin enough that I can see the lettering underneath. So then I'm going to put it back over here for a second. We're going to zoom back out. Okay, so we don't need the paper anymore. And then all I'm going to do is just take a cover slip, grabbing it on the edges because you don't want to contaminate it, and I'm just going to place it right on top of my mixture that I just made, my little smear. Okay. Alright, and then we're just going to transport it over to my microscope. So I'm just going to put this up. Let me just go like this. And we're just going to make this go down. Alright, there we go. So as you can see, my microscope has my cover slip on it with my fecal smear. So then we're just going to place this right onto the microscope. Make sure it's flat. Alright, and now we're just going to take a peek and see if we see anything on our slide. So we're going to start by turning the light on. And we're going to line up our cover slip. And generally I go from left to right. I feel that that's just easier for me to remember. And we're going to be looking at it underneath the 10 times power. So we're going to switch that over to the yellow one because that's our 10 times power. And then I'm going to go ahead and adjust the eyes because my eyes are a little wider than some people. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my knob over here to go from left to right, and then I'm going to fine tune with my knob on the left over here, and we're just going to take a peek and see if we see any parasitic material at all. A little wider. Alright, and here we go. So far, I'm not seeing anything concerning. Got a little air bubble right there. Again, that can happen when you put the cover slip onto the slide. I made it to the end of the cover slip. So far, I don't see anything concerning. I don't see any parasitic material. Again, with direct smears like this, we're more so looking for live parasites, you know, such as an example of Giardia, usually. Still, I'm going to call this negative so far because I still don't see anything too concerning other than your typical fecal material. Maybe a little tiny piece of grass. Okay, end of the slides. We're going to go up a little bit. And then again, we're going to go from left to right. And again, you want a nice thin sample because if your smear is too thick, you're not really going to be able to get a good glance if there were any parasitic material in the fecal sample. So by making it nice and thin so that you can see some lettering through it, it's going to make it nice and thin that if there are any, you know, parasitic material in there, you know, you'll be able to see it pretty well. Another air bubble. Alright, now we're going to go over and up. And this looks like it's going to be my last section. little piece of hair, but other than that, I'm going to call this fecal direct smear negative because I do not see any remnants of any parasitic material at all. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn off the light. I'm just going to remove my slide and we're going to throw it into the trash, or into the sharps container, excuse me, because we don't need it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and switch this back to the 4x objective lens. And I'm going to note in our record, because we do everything electronically here at my practice, so I'm just going to make sure underneath the lab section in the computer that underneath the direct fecal smear, I'm going to call it negative because I did not see any evidence of any parasitic material. And that is how you complete task 16, which is doing a direct smear of a fecal sample.